Hey there, Angela Wolf here behind the scenes, and today we're going to finish sewing this skirt. I don't know if we'll finish because there's a lot of hand stitching to do, but I have been just dying to get this finished, and I knew that you would want to see me sew in the invisible zipper and how to get that lining ready for hand stitching. So that's what we're doing today. Welcome everyone, it's so great to see you. So the last couple weeks, you had full entertainment. You got to see everyone in our studio having a really good time making jackets. Wait till you see this cute little cup. There's one side. And here's the other. Kimberly got all of these for us. Love it, love it. I think I might have to find out where we could get some more of these because I think some of the Wolfpack might like this. So, ooh, and the hot tea tastes fabulous in there. So before we get rolling, I can see all of you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, and a couple news announcements. Did you see Brothers live show yesterday? So I made wine coasters for my family for our dinners. So I have a lot more to go. But if you would like to see a full tutorial on that, it was on yesterday's show on Brothers channel. I use the Stellaire. You could use any Brother machine, obviously, but I used the new Matrix feature, which made it really fun. And not only that, after the live show, I played around a little bit with these because I thought, I know we can make this a little faster. So besides adding the letters, you can actually put in the circle, the octagon, whatever, put everything in there, and you can use the Matrix for the entire design. You just have to change the letters. So very fun idea. Patty, it's great to see you because you said, hey, what else can we do with that? So I played around with it more than I have. And there's a lot of things it can do. So tomorrow's live show on Brother, we're going to work on some tapering stitches and some other ideas for decorating for fall. So speaking of decorating for fall, I have this skirt on my table. Oh, that's bright. We've been working on this for a while, right? It's the season for this skirt. It's just warm enough to wear for fall with a cute pair of black boots. I should be raring to go. Raring to go. I don't know where I'm going to go. Hey, Win. Can we go to dinner or something? Because I need to wear this skirt. Actually, this skirt's going to be... Oh, thanks, Rose. This skirt is going to be so casual. I can dress it up or dress it down. And I've decided to make a coordinating jacket. We talked about this before, and I was like, I don't know. That's a little bit too much of a matchy-matchy. No way. I have to have the matching jacket because just in case I decide to wear the full suit, I can. But I could totally see this jacket with some of my Couture embroidery on it for trim. So I woke up at 3 in the morning last night dreaming of trim. That is not what you want to wake up doing. So I'll show you what we're going to do next. But why don't we kick it off and get working on this skirt? And I know, by the way, some of you pop in and then you have to leave you're on your lunch break or you have to take off. So just really quick, I have a special show on Monday. I've already listed it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn because I'm going to be interviewing my good friends. Yes, you've seen them on there. So anyways, we're going to be talking about tables. They come up with the coolest things. Valerie, Jessica, there's actually 3 of them that started this business, mother and 2 daughters. So you are going to love this show. It's a special show on Monday at noon Eastern. So those of you on the Pacific Coast, about 9-ish, right when you get up for coffee, we will be live on there. And they're going to give you, they haven't told me all the products they're going to show, but you've seen my beautiful tables that go up and down, the ones that I've got the serger on back there, my cutting table. They move around and they stack. Yeah. So they're going to give us special deals on a lot of their products. They have cutting mats. They have so many other things. And it's going to be pre-Houston Quilt Fest deals just for the Wolfpack. Yeah. So I have it listed. Let me just see if I can bring it up here. I'll bring you a link to it. If you go to the YouTube channel, you can save the show so you don't miss it. Let me just make sure I see it on here. Hold tight. Make sure I listed it right before I tell you that. But it's noon, which is not normal for us. Usually we're Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So next week you're going to see me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. YouTube doesn't believe it's me. I give up. Okay, hold tight. I'm just going to bring you up the little graphic here. Maybe. Wait for it. It's not coming up. So, anyways, it's Classy Creations. You'll see the ladies at noon Eastern. Bring your questions. Get ready for some really fantastic deals because they know that all the Wolf Pack loves a lot of the things that I use. And they said, hey, you know what? Not everybody's going to Houston Quilt Fest. Let's give them a deal. So, thanks, Val. Thanks, Jessica. We'll look forward to seeing you on Monday. So, that's Monday. And then tomorrow, we have a brother show at noon. And that's some more fall decor and then Fashion Sewing Club at 2. So that's the news for the week. I don't think I missed anything. Lots going on this month. Oh, yeah. Janelle says it's a danger going to my studio. I know. It can be. It can be. Oh, what time is it? 3 a.m.? Oh, no. Karina, you haven't gone to sleep yet. Well, I woke up dreaming about embroidery. So, hey, guys, why don't we get rolling and start this skirt? Because we've got a lot to do on here. In fact, some of the things we have to do is add a hidden zipper. And I know that's kind of a sore subject for some people. They hate sewing zippers. I've got an easy way to show you how to do it. You don't even need an invisible zipper foot. Although if you have one, that makes a bonus. It just makes it a little easier. Okay? Busy. All right, everyone, let's roll. Off to the ironing board we go. And I'll try to get that not so bright for you. So I did do a few things since I saw you last. Oops, that's too dark. How about that? Better? Here we go. So since I saw you last, and if you've missed this entire sew along, it's kind of been broken up into quite a few weeks because we had other things going on. We had the cruise ship interview coming on, which was awesome, and a few other things with everybody in my studio. So if you look closely here, can you barely see these quilting lines? Barely. So I ended up doing them down every single row of white. If you missed those episodes, you can go back to learn how to do that. So why am I doing this? This skirt is going to feel like wearing pajamas. I've got silk charmeuse lining. I've quilted the lining to the bottom, to the outside layer. Bring you out just a little bit. And then the last step I needed to do before, I just want to make sure this was ready. I folded this up at the 2 inches, gave it a good pressing, used the tailor's clapper to make sure we had a nice crisp crease. And then I folded the lining over about where it's going to fall. All right, because we're hand stitching that in. I know, the bad word. Now, when I'm sewing ready to wear that's not a touch of couture, I don't use a lot of hand stitching. In fact, probably zero. But this has a lot of hand stitching, and that's what makes it a touch of couture. So I quilted both pieces, leaving about 2 inches from the edge. Okay. And if you look closely, I added fusible interfacing to this side and the coordinating side. Let's see, is this the front? And the coordinating side on the back. Now, I like my zippers on the left-hand side. You could do whatever you want to, but usually women's zippers for women's clothes is on the left-hand side. But if you're privy to opening zippers on your right-hand side, you design the clothes. Do whatever you want to. So I did that. I serged all the way around the edges of the outside fabric. I did that to the back. Let's see what the front looks like here. No, actually, that was the front. This is the back. Here's the back piece. Okay, there were a lot of questions coming in about the darts. So do you press them different directions? What do you do? So I pressed my fabric darts going in and my lining darts going out. And you probably cannot see that, except maybe right here. And another thing, if you look from the right-hand side, of course you can't see the stitching, but you might be able to see the darts a little better here. When I do that, I do not quilt over the darts. So here, I've quilted this line down here, and then here's my dart. So I start my other quilting right here, right here, right here, and then back up to the top. Does that make sense? So there's my dart. You'll quilt down because that's nice and flat. Start down here a little bit below your dart, quilt, quilt. This one can go all the way around, and then you're back to normal. So you do not quilt over the darts. All right, I know that was a big question that I saw on a lot of the comments rolling through. So on this back piece, I did the same thing, pressed up the lining, pressed up the hem. That's about where this will be. And also I quit my quilting at least 2 inches from the edge. And you'll notice I put interfacing on both sides. Why? That was a mistake. Oh, you can't help it, right? So I first put interfacing on my right side. Yeah, on my right side. And I was like, wait a minute. I like to have my zipper on the left side. So I just put interfacing on the other side. I didn't want to rip it off because that will make your fabric kind of icky. So I left it. Rose, where do you order from? What are you looking for? If you're looking for a tailor's clapper or any of my patterns, just go to angelawolfpatterns.com or angelawolf.com. There's 2 places to order, and you can also order from the app. Oh, Sandra, you're up to 8 total zippers. Hey, that's awesome. That's awesome. I know, Patty. I know. I love quilting, but this is, I don't know. I guess it's just different to me. Any other questions before I keep rolling? Ooh, Ellen's making a Chanel-ish jacket. Very cool. I can't wait to see it. Oh, Rose, the blind hem machine. Do you see that behind me? Yeah. If you message me, I'll give you a link. It's from sewingmachineplus.com. Yeah, that blind hem machine is sweet. So mine broke, and I had to order a new one. And my old one lasted so long that it's still sitting at my front table. I might just keep it and paint it because it was my first machine that I bought when I was running my business to make my business faster and better and more efficient. And it died after 20 some years. Oh, Janelle, you want to see my whole top? Okay, I'll back up here shortly, but let's go back and do the skirt, and then I'll show you my whole top. So because I have the skirt, I just want to make sure that my zipper goes on the right side. So when I originally put interfacing on both sides, what the heck? I'm not going to take it off. It's not going to make any difference. It just barely covers where the zipper would go. So let's start with the front side. Here we go. And I just had my zipper. What did I do with it? Put it by the blind hem machine, drop it on the floor, leave it up by you guys. Here it is. It's here. So you need a blind. It's an invisible zipper, not a regular zipper, an invisible one. Of course, you can use a regular zipper, but this just looks nice. And it's invisible. You can't see it. Okay. So I have a little trick. You have to be very careful. Don't melt your zipper, but I take my zipper, I open it up, and fold your teeth open just a little bit. Now I have an iron shoe on my iron, so I don't have to worry about melting the teeth or anything, but I'm just pressing that open a little bit. If you don't have an iron shoe, then you're going to want, oh, it must be running out of water. If you don't have an iron shoe, just be very careful that you don't accidentally melt your teeth, all right? So there's one side. Let's see, is this my front? And I want the zipper on the left side, right here. I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance here. So fold your lining out of the way. Take your zipper. And just because I'm with you, I'll use a few pins. So when I walk over to the machine, they don't all disappear. Everything doesn't fall and you won't wonder which way it goes. So a couple little tips for you. If you have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, you don't want to line up your zipper right at the edge here. That'll only be a 1/4 of an inch. So here's the zipper right side up. There's my tab. Flip it over. So my teeth are on the inside, my tab's on the outside. I will typically use this part of the tab of my zipper right at the top because that gives me just enough room to sew and add my waistband. All right, so I'm just going to stick a pin right here as a guide. Now we have a real distinct pattern to follow here. So this is very important. When I lay that here, I want to just check my back side. Let's see, which side is up? Darts. So take a look at the top of my skirt now. I've got my front and my back. I want all of these to match. So when this is sewn together, you won't even be able to tell there's a side seam. This is the tricky part. So it looks like the top is pretty close. If I bring this a little closer, it looks like my front side is just a little bit higher. Could have been my cutting or serging, anything like that. So I'm going to start this tab down just a little bit further so it'll match this side. Just throw a pin in here. And then, using your measuring tape, measure where you're going to stitch, which will be right inside of those zipper teeth. You need it to be a 1/2 of an inch from the edge. So that's a little bit too far. And once you know where this positioning is, you can sew it. I'll bring you just a wee bit closer here. There you go. So if I stitch there, right to the edge of my fabric is a 1/2 of an inch. Perfect. So it looks like this is going to be running right down the edge of the serged edge that I have, not on the edge of the fabric, the edge of the serging. All right, so one more thing. When you're sewing an invisible zipper, bring you back out just a little bit. We don't need to sew all the way to the bottom. In fact, you don't want to sew all the way to the bottom. So I want to give myself a guide. How many inches do I need to get into this skirt? The skirt's a little bit higher waisted. So 7 inches is a pretty good bet. This is a 9-inch invisible zipper. So at 7 inches, I'll just put a little pin right there to remind myself that once I get to about the 7 inches, it doesn't have to be exact. This isn't written in stone. And if you have bigger hips than I do, then you might have to go to 8 inches. So the idea of the zipper is just to open up the skirt far enough to get it on. That's the only purpose. So if your hips and your waist are the same measurement, your zipper might only need to be 5 inches. Does that make sense? All right, so we're at about 7 inches right there. Okay, we're going to stitch that in place using the zipper foot. And I'm just using a standard zipper foot. Why? Because I know not everybody has an invisible zipper foot, and I always like to try to keep my lessons somewhat. Of course, as a Brother Brand ambassador, I have a lot of fun tools that maybe you don't have, but I like to make the sewing something that you can do very easily. Okay? All right. What questions do you have for me? I know, Ellen, it's not, is it? It's fun. I love matching plaids. I know, my sick engineering mind. Oh, center zippers are nice too. Also, for those of you that aren't doing a side zip, now I base this off of my pattern, a combination of the Kate skirt, the tweed, the fringe skirt is actually really what this is, because you can see it's tapered a little bit more than the Kate skirt. The Kate skirt kind of angles out. So when you're making a skirt, you can also add a center back seam. It's also really good for fitting with a center back seam. So I chose not to, but if you do, if you have a center back seam, that's where I would put the zipper. You want to see both zipper feet? Well, I don't have the blind one with me today, so I could show that in another lesson, but I'll show you the standard foot today. How's that? Yeah, I do. Thank you, Melody. I do have a YouTube, quite a few YouTube videos on how to sew zippers. By the way, I was just looking at the YouTube channel. We need 2,500 That sounds like a lot, but it's not. 2,500 more subscribers to get to 60,000. So if you have friends that love to sew, please share my YouTube channel with them. I would love to hit that 60K before my birthday. November 29th, we have a super fun sewing week planned. Let's see if we can hit the 60,000 before then. I say we because it's you and I doing it together. All right, back here, let's head to the sewing machine. Yeah, we hang out with our sewing friends, right? Okay, so I have the machine, let's see, set up here. Again, you want to slide your lining out of the way. I'm going to slide you back just a little bit. Don't get seasick. I'm using my table a little higher today, so hopefully I can lean over you a little easier and sew straight. Yeah, we'll see how that works. So push your lining out of the way. If you need to pin it, go ahead and pin it. Put on your zipper foot. So mine has where you have a left and a right position. Put it on where the left position here, this one. You might have an adjustable zipper foot. A lot of times when I'm sewing, I am using my PQ 1500, which has an adjustable zipper foot. So whatever you have. I've already pressed this open a little bit, so slide this down. Want to do a little bit of a back stitch. Now, right now, my needle is in the center position. I can see it right there. I'll bring you a little closer. If you need to, you can move your needle further to the left. But I will usually, a couple things. I will baste one row, either basting or with a straight stitch, a little bit further away from the zipper teeth, just to make sure it lays nicely. And I don't use pins, just use your finger and hold this in place. I'm lining up my zipper tape with the edge of my serged edge here. I can see some of your comments. Oh yeah, did you guys see what I posted on Instagram today? Kimberly found this cute picture and she wanted to print fabric for it. Oh, we had a lot of fun with that. I have one more piece to print for her, but I videotaped her and put it on Instagram. So if you're wondering how cool the print moda is, it is on Instagram. Oh, it might be on the stories on Facebook too. I don't know. Sometimes it automatically does that without my approval. All right, so right here is about the 7-inch mark. Just going to stay right around that black edge right here, the top of that black. All right, so take a look at how far away your stitch is. And I'll bring you just a wee bit closer here, and then I'll take you over to the ironing board again. So if you look closely, when this is folded open, I can just barely see the edge of the zipper teeth, which is fine. When you're using a thicker tweed, I know some of you alter bridal wear and things like that that have really thick seams. If you make that stitch too close to the fabric, what will happen is when you zip it, it will actually rip off your teeth, which would not be good. So there's one side. Let's head over to the ironing board. Bring it back out, back to the machine, and we'll go back to the ironing board. So in the meantime, do you have any questions for me? So what I have left right here is basically the bottom of my zipper tail. Did you ever hear the story about one of my fashion shows where I made this really cute pair of pants? Trisha, if you're watching this, I know you're going to be laughing with me. I think you and Julie were both in my fashion show. And so I made these really cute pants, put a hidden zipper in it. Now the pants were orange, neon orange and neon pink. Yeah, screams 90s, right? They were super cute, but I could not find a matching or coordinating hidden zipper except one that was 20, I think it was 24 inches long. Might have been even longer. Let's just say I put the hidden zipper in the back of the pants. It had a back seam. And I forgot to cut off this tail. So it went all the way down to her knees. So she's walking on the runway in my fashion show. And she came back and Trish was like, I really like these pants and I'd really like to buy the suit. But do all zippers go all the way to your knees? Oh my gosh. So that's your laugh for the day. In case you forget to trim off the back of your zipper. And Trish and Julie, if you're watching this, I know you're laughing because this is like 20 years ago. All right. So you have this little hanger here. And if you had to use a 20-inch zipper because it's the only color you could find to match, you still have it hanging, but don't cut it off yet. That's really important. And then at the top, my zipper goes almost to the top. I wanted to coordinate it with the plaid. It's not really a plaid, but boucle fabric with a, there. So, and when it opens, just make sure that your stitching is not too close to the zipper teeth, or you will either, one, mess up your fabric because you'll pull those tweed pieces out, which you're not going to be happy with, or two, it will start to pull your zipper teeth away from the fabric, and that's not good either. All right, any questions before I head over there? Oh, Zena, did you seriously have neon orange pants in the 70s? Well, I had them in the 90s. I had them in the 90s. They were great. Okay. Any other things for you? I do too, Patty. I do too. Thanks, Ellen. I love this fabric too. Oh, Robin says, yes, but dealers are always selling feet. And yes, they are, Robin. So I better find. Find is the key word. By the way, if you all don't know Robin from the Stitching Post, she's fabulous. And I would love to know from the Wolfpack, how many of you live down there and that is your local dealer that you love? Robin, I got you though. I got you. All right. Any links to the fringe skirt? Yeah, Ellen, I can send, there's a link. It's on Angela Wolf Patterns. The fringe skirt is. Any others? Angela, I want to put my zipper between the main and the lining fabric. Is that possible? Yes. And we will be doing that. We will be doing that. Okay, let's go back over. Can't believe we've already, our hour's halfway over. Okay. So I saw somebody saying that the camera is blurry. Well, it should not be because I just got new internet, newer, and it's so fast that I think I could go to Mars and back. Yeah. It's like lightning. All right, so again, here's my zipper. Let's take a closer look, just to make sure that that lays perfect. And you can just barely see the zipper teeth. So now here's the tricky part. We want to make sure we stop our stitching at the exact same spot on the front and back. If you don't, you end up with a little bubble at the bottom. We don't want that. So now take your back piece. Fold this over. One thing I like to do is just give myself a little mark or a little snip right where the bottom stitch needs to go, because it needs to be at the bottom of the zipper, not at the bottom of your skirt, but the bottom of the zipper. So I'm just going to grab, you know what, I can't find it. My studio is too clean. I don't have any fabric marking tools, so I'm going to use a pencil. So it goes right here and on the back side. Right here. All right, perfect. So I open this up now. This side of the zipper is going to flip this way. So it looks very confusing when you start to sew this, but if I lay it open, you'll see the tape always faces the center and the teeth always face the garment. Make sense? All right, I'm going to fold the lining out of the way and just throw a pin in there to make sure I don't accidentally sew that. Okay, now I'm going to zip this back up because a couple things I need to make sure. I want this back to match perfectly with my front seam. Or now once you start going around the curve at the upper part of your skirt, sometimes it can get a little wonky where it's not absolutely perfect, but you want it as perfect as you possibly can make it. So I'll start at the bottom. It doesn't matter if you start at the bottom or top, but if that looks pretty good. So I'm going to throw a pin in there. Flip my whole piece over because again, you have to slide your zipper in a little bit so it's right up, butting up to the edge of your serged edge. Now my serged edge is a 3-thread wide overlock. So if you're using a narrow overlock, the edge of your zipper might not reach right up to that. Okay, so I just threw some pins in here, mostly so I can flip around and show you. And also, just so I can check how close these lines are. What do you think, guys? Looks pretty good to me. Now also keep in mind that once you sew this, it has to meet at the bottom. So let me just double check my pinning here. If that's the 1/2 inch mark, and this is the 1/2 inch mark. So these are all matching beautifully. Get up a little higher. This is where it starts to curve. Still matches beautifully. And yeah, I think that works. Do you guys see anything that I'm missing right here that, I mean, it looks pretty darn good to me. The only thing I see is this might have to go down just a little bit. So let's try one more. I'm going to slide the zipper down just a smidge. I feel like it's off by like 1/16 of an inch. How does that look? A little better? No, that back is still pretty high up here. Did I slide it the wrong way? Maybe I slid it the wrong way. I did. This is the most boring part, by the way. There. I think that it's just a little bit, now it lines up just a little better. Don't you think? I mean, it is like spot on. Okay, so if that's where we want it, I've got my pins in there. Let's go ahead and open this up. Be very careful because that tweed or boucle can be a little thick. So we still have this opening at the bottom. I want to make sure I stop sewing right on my pencil mark. All right, I'm flipping this over just to see what it looks like. Just make sure this is 1/2 inch seam allowance, not more, not less. That looks pretty good. So I can actually sew from my pencil mark up on this side if I want to. So again, just one more double check. I'm going to just zip this up to where that bottom is. I think that's going to be good. All right, so let's head to the sewing machine, and this time you can sew either way. You can sew from up down or from the down up. I like to go from the down up because I know this matches perfectly with the other side, and I will stitch up. Plus, that's the way my pins are facing. Oh, I'm so excited to finish this skirt because I almost did this a couple weeks ago while I was waiting for my groups to come, and I decided, uh-oh, if I do that, you aren't going to know how to sew the zipper. Okay, so got my needle down right at the marking. Do a stay stitch now instead of a back stitch because that will lock my stitch, and I know that it should be within one stitch of where my other side is, meaning it's going to match. Oh, we hope so at least. Okay. Stitch, and as you're stitching, just make sure you fold that zipper tape open just a little bit if you need to. Again, when you're using a tweed or a boucle, you want to make it not quite on top of your zipper teeth. And up. Now you can do a back stitch at the top. All right, let's head back to the ironing board and take a look to see how close we are. Make sure I didn't capture my lining at the bottom or anything crazy like that. Okay. Let's see. That looks really good. It matches nicely too. So at the bottom, we will end up getting rid of this later. But now give it a little pressing just to make sure I see that I've got a little bit of space right here that I could probably do one more row of stitching just a little closer to the end on this side. Let me see when I press it. Wow, you can just barely. You know what? I'm going to leave it. It's such a minute. Well, let me peek. Before I say that, let me just peek. Was I that far away? Because this is the one that we stitched down and up. Yep. I'll do one more row of stitching on that one. And by the way, now while you're at it, I also want to stitch the edge of my tape on both sides to the excess seam allowance. It just keeps it nice and flat. It's an extra row of stitching. It's not like it takes that long, but we'll do that while we're going to do that at the same time while we're over there. All right. Is this the one that I need to just do one more row? No, this one's fine. Just hit cut. This time, just going to do one row of stitching right at the edge of the zipper tape just to keep it in place. You don't have to use your zipper foot anymore. You could actually use a regular standard foot, but since I have it on, let's just make it work. And then once I finish this, you'll realize why you wanted to keep a little bit of extra room. So there's my ending stitch. I'm leaving about an inch up we'll just leave it like that. I just want it to stay secure when I go to add my lining. So this is the one that I need to go down just a little bit further. So let's line that up. I'm going to put a pin just as a guide because I'm trying to lean over the camera and sew at the same time. We know how wonderful that works out. There, that's a little closer. Now do the stay stitch. Make sure your lining is out of the way. I feel like something is wrong. I don't know. It looks fine now. Maybe it would just had a little pressed edge. Stay stitch. Let's go up one more time, just a little closer to those teeth on this side. I'm going to slide you over just a little bit. See somebody asking, I'm on the Brother Luminaire. Full disclosure, I'm a Brother brand ambassador. To say that so I don't get into trouble. Now I'm just stitching the edge of my zipper tape down. Okay, now zip it up and see if that looks a little bit better. Yes, much better. It's not opening at the bottom. You can't hardly see anything here. Once I press it, it'll be fine. And then the bottom edge, both of those stitches are spot on. So now flip your skirt inside out. I think you'll see this better at the ironing board. I'll take you over there. Okay. So now, again, fold your lining out of the way on both sides. I'll just put a little pin in here to keep those. Make sure they don't get in the way. So our next step is I will use the zipper foot to stitch from here down just a little bit. So I'm just going to be stitching, if right here where my nail is the exact stitching line, I'll be stitching in towards the garment just like 1/8 of an inch and then stitching down. But before I do that, I need to make sure that all my plaids match up. So I'm going to run pins through, and a lot of times I do this just by holding the fabric and going down a little bit, but since I'm doing this over a camera, I want to make sure that I don't have to rip any of this out because it's not fun. So basically I'm finding a spot on this plaid that matches to the other side. If the pin goes through, then I know that it's going to match. Okay. And yes, the lining is going to cover all of this up. All right, one more. Must be windy outside. Can you all hear all the noises at the door? I had to go check to make sure somebody wasn't there. Somebody like the new batch of fabric coming for all of our fabric stash sale. Oh yeah, wait till you guys see what I have in store for you. That one's off just a little bit. And then how do you tell? Well, you can open this up if you want, and you'll just barely be able to see. Yeah, that looks good. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is sew together right at the zipper, going down just a little bit. And it really depends on your preference. Sometimes I will start here and go up. I just find it to be a better able to handle this side of the fabric. Other times I start here and go down. It's really your preference, what you're most comfortable with. Just take one more look at the back. Yeah, I think that looks pretty darn good. All right, head to the sewing machine. We have to get the zipper in the side done, and that way you can start working on the hand stitching. Joanna, yes, wait till you see what I have in store. So we've been working on cardigans and tweeds. That should give you a little hint of what's coming. What's coming. Yeah. Okay. Back to the machine. Which side did I put all my I put all my pins on the other side for you. So I just have to switch a couple just to make sure I don't sew over anything. I always put, when I do use pins, I put them where the little knobs, if you look close, are facing out. And they're kind of way out of the seam allowance. So if I miss one, God forbid, but if I do, I only sew over the pin a little bit. But usually I don't miss any. But it's better than running over the head of your zipper. That will not be good. All right, so on my zipper, switch sides. Hey, Robin, if you're on here, will you put the part number for the hidden zipper? Because I see a bunch of people asking for it that have Brother Luminaires or Brother machines. You can put a link on there too if you want. All right, so there's the bottom of my stitch line. Bring you a little closer here. How's that? No seasick? No seasickness. There's the bottom of my stitch. I need to start up above that, just about 1/2 inch. So put my foot down. And this time I need to move my needle to the right. So I'm using the left-right shift to do that. So I want to get my needle as close to my previous stitch line as I can. Not on it, but just right next to it. Do a little back stitch or do a stay stitch, whichever one you prefer. And now I'm stitching using 1/2 inch seam allowance, but just go down a little bit further until you're past the bulk of the zipper. Stop there. Just going to change my foot to the standard foot. So actually, let me just cut this. I'm going to put this down, cut my thread. I can see where that is. I should have done that first, but. So now I have a stitch line that goes from here to here. And now I will line up my needle back to the center position because that's my preference. And line it up right where my last stitch was. Again, taking care that I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I know I felt a pin right here. Where did you go? There it is. My bracelet is making music on the table today. Now, one thing, now that I'm getting to the end, I'll show you one little trick here. If you don't want to use pins, line this up where you can see exactly where each plaid is, and you can just hold your hand up and stitch the same way. I'll stop and check, stop and check. See what that looks like. This is where you're trying to cross your fingers. Well, it wouldn't be the first one I ripped out. So let's head to the ironing board. Hey, Lisa. Oh, thank you, thank you. And Robin also left a link for all of you. And I'm sure if you call her, she has probably a good deal for the wolf pack, right, Robin? No pressure, no pressure. All right, so there's my zipper. There's my opening. Let's just double check before we press it. Wow. Hey guys, this looks pretty darn good. I mean, this one might be off 1/8 of an inch, but the rest look fine. So it might just be where the white is because it can't be off in one spot and not the other. All right, so pressing using a tailor's ham because this is your hip curve. You really don't want to press that flat. So I'm going around the edges, being careful not to press too much on my zipper teeth. We've got this whole extra section here. So what we'll end up doing is trimming this down. Sometimes I'll put a little piece of silk over it, but we're going to be covering this up with lining, so we won't even see it. All right. And let's go all the way down to the bottom. So while I'm here, I also want to show you how I end up pressing up my lining to get around the zipper, because you're going to have to do that to both sides. I'm not going to sew the other side seam for you. You just saw how I do that. Of course, you can ask questions if you have any. So that zipper tab, it's impossible for that. If you look at the right side, I'll give it one more little pressing on the right side just to make sure that seam looks nice. Look, it's like magic. You see the zipper at all? Nope, just this little tab right here. So it's going to be impossible for that zipper tab to go below this opening right here. So what does that mean? I can cut that off and not have to worry about anything happening to it. So I usually give myself so I have a little bit of excess like that. And if you want to be very careful, either put a piece of silk over it or do just a stitching across it, which I will probably do that because you never want it to open at this end, which I've never had that happen, but never say never, and you know it will happen. All right, so now your next step is going to be aligning your lining with that seam. You're going to do the same thing with your other seam as well. So I usually go from the front to the back. So my first section here, and I'm just going to leave it pressed up for now because it's just as easy to do that. My hem pressed up. Line this up with the seam, and right here is the zipper. And I love pressing, so I'll give myself a nice pressed crease to go by here. We're going to create a little box. And there's the bottom. Here's the other part. You can see when this is folded in, it can either be stitched by machine or by hand. Then I will have this go out just a little bit right here. So what you want to do is stitch yourself a little box right here. Let's go ahead and do that. It's like a corner, not a box. Oh, thanks, Joanna. And Robin said if you call her, she definitely will give you a discount. So thanks, Robin. Okay, so there's the bottom edge. Just flip my pin the other way. And then I have a pressed edge as a guide for the other. Now I have way more lining than I'm going to need. I always do that on purpose because sometimes it can shift while you're sewing it. but we'll be cutting it away later. So now you want to have a straight stitch, stitch length, a very small one, like 2.0. Oh, of course, the bobbin's going to run out. See if we can get just a little, can we just get the corner? Come on. I just want to get the corner. Did it already run out? It already ran out. Oh, of course, because why wouldn't it during a live show? All right, wait for it. Oh, by the way, somebody asked me the other day when I was working on the Stellaire, if the Stellaire had the knob at the top where you can control how much thread you put on your bobbin. I could not, for the life of me, remember that tab was right here. I never use it. I always end up filling my bobbin to the top. I'm always working on big projects, so no, it does not. And the tab is right there. When you work on so many different machines, sometimes you forget where certain things are. So I'm holding the back of my thread here because I don't have the small spool cap right here. Just a little trick for you. I don't want it to go flying off. That's plenty just to get this last little part going for you. All right. And I'm going to just have to brag a little bit because the best thing that brother ever came out with was the automatic needle threader. I would be lost without it. I would need like 3 pairs of scissors here. All right, so does that mean I have to mark my marking again? Yes. So the bottom of the zipper is about right here. So we're creating a corner. So no different than if you're inserting a zipper or something like that. You need that little itsy bitsy corner that you can snip to so your fabric will push towards the backside. You'll see. All right, and I'm just going to stitch up just a little bit. I don't need to go all the way. But the stitch line actually gives you a really nice guide for pressing. All right, so we just did that little corner right here. You're going to do the same thing to the other side, but we're just going to do one side today with you, and I'll do the other side without you. Okay. So now, back to our skirt. There's our rectangle right there. You can't see it, but it's right here. I'm going to snip to the corner using super sharp scissors right to the corner of that stitch line. Now take your lining and from the wrong side, fold back the lining next to the zipper. And using that stitch line as a guide, fold this back and give it another pressing down here. All right, so now you should have a little opening. Voila. So this is the front side. And just give yourself a couple pins here to hold this in place. You want to make sure that the lining lays flat, 1-to-1, meaning there's not more lining than fabric on the outside. I'll just stitch along the zipper, and then here's the bottom of my zipper. Now, you could technically sew some of this by machine, but I'm calling this Touch of Couture, so this will all be done by hand. And then when I get to this section here, this is the front piece, find your seam, make sure your fabric's laying nice and flat, and then I will give myself a few pins right in the middle of that seam. Now this part gets a little tricky, so if you've never made a couture jacket or a couture skirt like this before, you might be thinking, what on earth? All right, so your next steps before I see you next week will be to sew your other side seam using the same process I just showed you, making sure that all of these line up. Try on the skirt, make sure it fits. If you need to take it in a little bit, that is your only opportunity to do that. So hopefully you already have a muslin that fits. So if you need any tweaking, it's like minimal and you won't have to rip that zipper out. Then your next step is going to be, hopefully you've already pressed up your seam allowance, your hem allowance 2 inches. So your whole skirt will be sewn together, hand stitch, or use a nice blind hem stitch machine, whatever one you want. Blind hem or hand stitch that hem in place. So your skirt is sewn together, your hem is stitched in place, and then the last thing you'll do before I see you next week is to start with your front lining first down like this, and you will make that little box here, hand stitch all the way down the zipper, and then that's a permanent stitch. So you want that to look really nice. And from here down, just do some loose tack stitches, not too loose. And you don't want to see these stitches from the right side. So you're literally stitching through here, right down the center of that seam. Not on the seam allowance, but right on that seam. Because what we'll do next week then is finish this side. To just give you a visual, this side will be pressed back right along that exact seam that you have there. And again, you'll have the little box on this side, and this will be pressed up. And then we'll be ready for our waistband. So I promise, if I decide to, I'm in a major sewing mood right now. So I promise that if I decide, for any reason, to finish sewing this, that I will videotape it and post it on Facebook and YouTube. All right? I promise I will. So any questions for me? We totally went past that hour. All right, so Janelle wanted to see my top. See if I can step back far enough. This is that color blocking top that I made that matched that really cute black skirt for my class reunion quite a few years ago. Anything else, guys? The skirt is coming along beautifully. Do you hand sew the lower section of the lining? Yes, but not until we're finished sewing up the side seams. So you will sew. So there's a lot of hand stitching in this one, but it's, I don't know, it's fun. You can do it while you're watching TV or playing loud music, whichever one you prefer. Oh, thanks, Janelle. Thanks, Darlene. Little bit of pop for fall. No, no, Robin, I'm not going to Houston. Are you going to Houston? I will not be there. I will be here having a party first. Getting ready for, it's a joke. I'm not having a party. I'm having a sewing party. Thanks, Dalia. All right, any last minute questions, everyone? Oh, I do too, Joanna. I do too. All right, so you have the calendar. You have the calendar for the week. Tomorrow, live show at noon Eastern for Brother. 2 p.m. Fashion Sewing Club. And next week, don't forget, Monday's a very special day. We've got Valerie and Jessica coming on to show us their awesome tables and all the extra stuff that they have as a pre-Houston big sale. It's going to be fun. Oh, thanks, Lisa. All right, thanks, guys. Well, Our hour has blown by. It's so nice to see all of you, and thanks for your comments. I always go back tonight, so if you're watching the replay, leave me some comments there too. One thing, some of you have made the cutest grocery bags. We did that on Brothers page the last month. Oh my gosh, I have to share these. So if you haven't sent me a picture of your bag, let me know. I'm going to put them all together in like a little video and get Brothers approval that I can play it during the live show. So. Oh, hey, Ellen. So you'd have to go to my YouTube channel. That's the easiest place to find it versus Facebook. So go to YouTube, and if you click on live videos, it has the title. You'll see it'll show this skirt or the fabric. You'll see part 1, part 2, part 3. And then there's a few videos in between because I had some interviews. Make sense? Oh, Joanna, let me see here. I will send it in the newsletter. How's that? I have a newsletter that's like this long waiting to go out. So I will add that. I'll also put it in our Fashion Sewing Club tomorrow. All right, everyone. Have a great day. In the meantime, happy sewing. If you have any questions, let me know. See ya.